is coming at you with another video.
And gentlemen, let's welcome the legend, the myth, Damon Bruce from KNBR and 95.7 The Game, man. This is a great guest, man. What's up, man?
I've been around the block a little bit, but thank you for having me on, Chris. Good to see you. I love your intro. I always respect a man who's willing to rock aviator shades indoors. So lots of respect there. Good to be on with you. And boy, what a day where, you know, it's not manufactured 49ers talking points. Like there's some actual things to talk about. So it's great to be with you. Thanks for exposing me to your audience. I really appreciate it. And hopefully they dig it enough to go ahead and like, subscribe to Damon Bruce Plus. I would certainly appreciate that. And thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, anytime. Yeah. Your platform, man. I've been checking a lot of your content and, you know, I've been watching you and Larry do your shows too. So, you know, I'm a big listener, man, but, I know there was quite a few people you might have rubbed a little bit, but I'm like thinking, dude, he knows what he's talking about. I guess we have a right to an opinion, but when this is what caught my attention, you know, why do we care about practice stats? I don't understand it to this day. Like you look at interceptions, does that matter? No.
Well, you know, here's the thing. You should care about practice stats. They're not completely irrelevant data points, but they're not data points that are on par with completion percentages in playoff games or in regular season games. You know, they're not. We have seen a generation of just got here, new here. And it's kind of cute, excited to be here covering a football team. And we have people reporting practice statistics as if they were from the second quarter of a Super Bowl. And it's just what you're admitting is you don't even understand what you're really looking at while you're also trying to pass yourself off as a reporter. And that to me is why so much of the conversation around Trey Lance and the Niners just becomes toxic, because we're not talking about what we're actually seeing. You have a group of people that decided they want to speak something that they're not seeing into existence. And that to me, you know, call me an old man if you want. That's not covering a team. That's rooting for a team. And if you want to come on YouTube and root for your favorite team, that's fine. But to then mask that as an element or new level or layer of real journalism or coverage. And look, man, I'm no capital J journalist. I'm a sports talk radio host, but I've been around professional sports, you know, deeply inside of their circles for about 20 years now. And when you start to understand how things operate, you start to remove some of the anger from your journalistic equation and replace it with experience. And that to me is where the rubber really meets the road when it comes to covering a team correctly. Now, we also know that we live in a world where people just sign up for the vacuum chamber, the vacuum chambers that they prefer. We see it in politics. We've seen it with entertainment, and we're seeing it with sports teams. People want to be fed information that they're comfortable with. They don't want information that could be confused with the truth, actually challenging them. And that's where, again, my criticism falls more on the general premise than any one person or group of people that are, you know, got upset at me for basically just saying, look, if you honestly think Trey Lance should be the starting quarterback of this team, you have told me you don't even know what you're looking at. So thanks for volunteering information that I was kind of suspecting was there in the first place.
Yeah. You know what I didn't understand about the situation with Trey was if he wasn't the guy to begin with, why did we just not even get Mac Jones? The guy was a system quarterback fit, but instead we luck out on Brock Purdy, man. But, this was a wasted move. I think it's the worst trade by far because if you really didn't have no investment in this kid, then why'd you trade him to the Cowboys for this kind of value?
It's a stunner. I mean, there's no other way to say it. It is the biggest swing and miss that the Shanahan era will ever be allowed by ownership. There's no doubt. And it goes down, if not the singular worst trade in the history of the first 5 picks of the draft, given, amount of asset required to just do the pick, to make the pick in the first place, and then return on investment from the pick where, you not only did he not play very much, you still don't even know who he's going to be as an asset. It's an extraordinary failure in a lot of different directions. There's no reason to pretend it isn't. And at the same time, like you said, the magic words are Brock Purdy. And if you want to hold the worst draft pick against Kyle Shanahan, you have to come on back around to that other draft pick where I'm going to tell you, right now, there will be more failures, 3rd overall pick in the NFL draft, than there will ever be success stories coming out of pick 262 or whatever Mr. Irrelevant was.
Yeah.
So it's awful. There is no glory. There's no pretending that any element of trading for Trey Lance was a valuable a valuable distribution of assets, resources, time spent coaching. The whole thing was one gargantuan waste of time. There's no doubt. But the good news is it's a sunk cost. You move on, and you did get a little something back for an investment that got you nothing, a 4th round pick. You're going to want to nail that 4th round pick if
maybe you find a gem, yeah.
But it's not like the addition of Trey Lance, Chris, prevented the 49ers from knocking on the door of ultra competitive. So as bad as it is, it's also almost consequence free as we look at the team as it's assembled heading into week 1 in Pittsburgh. It really doesn't change any equation that dramatically. So while I'll agree with you, it's about as bad of a decision as you can see. Decisions that don't destroy or disrupt the success that you think you're about to have. I mean, how bad is it really? It's weird. This trade is forever in a gray space of, yes, it was awful. It's a total failure. And at the same time, it hasn't haunted the 49ers yet. And I guess that's the $65,000 question.
Oh, yeah, it's a question.
Yet reveal itself.
I think that's not the issue for now, but it's going to be a question mark if Kyle doesn't get further. I mean, Brock Purdy was the lottery. Like, there's not that many last picks in the draft that becomes your instant success. I mean, when you think of Brock Purdy, man, they have a making of a movie, but it just it was like a Cinderella story against the Eagles. He could have had some miracle, man, but I was rooting for this kid, man. I was like, man, everybody was really liking this story. Like, even for other people who were outside the football perspective, there was a couple of pro wrestlers and other people saying, man, Brock Purdy was a story that I was rooting for.
Everyone loves an underdog. Always has, always will. Every story, every book you read, everything that's on TV, there's always an element of the person that was passed over for whatever reasons, and by the end of the TV show, the movie, the whatever the series, they're standing on top and they've won. They've overcome all those odds. And that is an intoxicating story as long as people have been telling stories to each other, going back to, how they used to share, drawings on cave walls. I'm sure that some of those drawings were about an underdog surviving something in the wilderness that day. So it's an intoxicating story. And look, the kid over-delivered, and now he's going to be asked to continue to over-deliver and show us that his rookie year was not a blip. This isn't a guy that, the NFL gets some tape on and then they start squashing his tendencies, because remember, I don't even know if in a Shanahan system as a quarterback you're allowed to have tendencies. You just need to make the decisions that Kyle thinks these are the decisions I need made for my offense to operate correctly. Trey was incapable, never did make those decisions. Obviously, Brock did, and he did it in live action regular season football. And Sam Darnold has made enough of those decisions to make Kyle Shanahan come off of, a decision that has now turned into the most embarrassing decision he's ever made in the NFL. So, for those out there who want to, frame this as Kyle has been sabotaging Trey Lance and gave up on him, 3 weeks after having actually met him, that's nonsense. Kyle had an awful lot of personal and professional elements of his reputation riding on whether Trey Lance did or didn't work out. He wanted that to work out. The more Trey Lance works out, the smarter Kyle looks. Have you ever thought, geez, Kyle's really hoping he looks stupid today? That doesn't happen. He doesn't operate like that. So it's a moment in time that looks awful. And if the underdog story plays out where Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey are passing a Lombardi trophy back and forth on a stage, well, what will it have mattered? The answer is nothing. And to go back to Trey Lance too, just for a second, the ironic thing is everyone agreed. Hopefully the kid gets a fresh start, which provides a better opportunity for him than the Niners represent for him.
Oh yeah,
I think he's in a worse situation. Neither Brock Purdy nor Sam Darnold were as entrenched as a $40 million franchise quarterback that is Dak Prescott. And then you look at Cooper Rush, who played so well in Dak's absence last year. You had people who were, not hot take artists, but people who've been covering the Dallas Cowboys for years saying, geez, maybe Cooper Rush should be, he should keep the job. So he's got more entrenched talent in front of him in Dallas than he did in San Francisco.
I mean, he's going to get a fresh opportunity to compete. But what really got my attention when I was listening to the KNBR radio of what John Lynch said, he even admit the fact that he didn't even tailor-made an offense for Trey to begin with. If he wasn't going to be the guy, I would have been okay with the Mac Jones pick because that's just pretty obvious. I mean, Kyle wants a guy who operates the system. He doesn't want the flashy guy. He wants the guy that will just be able to execute his offense. Even though for some fans they may say, "Oh, he wants a robot type quarterback," I think he just wants a guy who could do the job and not question it.
He wants someone who is. I've been saying this on my channel. I've been saying this on radio shows. I've been saying this for years. Kyle Shanahan is like a guy running a French restaurant over in Paris.
Yeah.
He's the head chef, and he only wants to hear 2 words from his kitchen. Yes, chef. That's it. Yes, chef. Whatever you say, chef. That's what Kyle wants. Kyle wants someone who will go out and run it his way, do it his way, not try to – Kyle's not a razzle-dazzle guy. He believes in safe 12-yard and under passes and then let the real athletes on the field do the rest of the hard work with all the yak yardage and running after with the ball that we know defines this offense since the day Kyle got here. He is and has such a unique view on quarterbacks that I understand why a lot of people on the outside looking in, on a lot of people who root for other teams who have been sold that a quarterback is the only way you'll ever be successful. Kyle believes differently. He really does. He sees the quarterback position differently than just about every other head coach in America. I think that even includes high school and college. He sees it as part of his system, not the leader of the team that without the right guy there, my entire system breaks down. It's unique, and it's what makes the Niners hard to prepare for. And when things have gone well, look, the only thing that has prevented Kyle's teams from achieving success, and again, this is also hard to sell to people who, think that, well, I'm in this for a Super Bowl. Well, congratulations, sweetheart. Aren't you special and unique? Everyone involved here wants a Super Bowl.
That's the goal.
To reach the NFC title game in 3 of 4 years, and really the only seasons that have ended up unsuccessful for Kyle have been earmarked with injury. if his team isn't beat up, they're pretty damn good. You know, they haven't won the Super Bowl, but a healthy enough to go out and compete 49ers team keeps on finding itself in the NFC title game. And then last year, to just prove dramatically how much success is related or failure is directly related to injuries, Brock Purdy hurts himself in the game. Josh Johnson, who shouldn't even be in the league anymore, gets put in a situation. He pees right down his leg. Andy gets hurt. Now, all of a sudden, you're direct snapping to Christian McCaffrey in an NFC title game, and it's an embarrassment. It is an embarrassment, but it wasn't an embarrassment that was brought about by negligence or hubris or anything like that. You know, Jimmy didn't get healthy enough to be able to prepare to play that day, couldn't do it. And I'm sure you saw the story that their backup plan, had they had actually reached the Super Bowl, was call Drew Brees. Like, see if Drew Brees doesn't want one more day on a football field and you know, and see if he'd be interested. So it's kind of amazing. Oh, no, it wasn't Drew Brees.
No, it was Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, not Drew Brees. You'd be lucky to have Drew Brees. Yeah, Phillip Rivers, because I was like,
yeah, that was a story I heard about. Yeah,
ever too. Yeah, Phillip Rivers was the backup plan. So,
yeah, I mean, he was actually studying the playbook too. He was actually kind of getting ready in case it happened. So it was like he was even throwing out there. Even Kyle would admit that. And then, I mean, that would have been a crazy story. Even I was talking to a couple of Charger content creators. They were even surprised that even Rivers was in a possibility of that situation.
Well, it seems so far-fetched. Like, I mean, it's really like an episode of a bad TV show about football. Like, oh, you reached the big game. Call the guy who's retired. See if he doesn't want one more bite at the apple. Like, it sounds like a script that gets thrown out of a Netflix meeting, and it almost happens. So, you know, football is just full of moving parts. So many moving parts. Game to game, week to week, season to season. So whenever a coach sustains a level of excellence over the course of several seasons, it's proof that he knows what he's doing. It's proof that he's on to some sort of winning formula, because there's so many moving parts. Sustaining success over the course of just 3 or 4 years in the NFL is to be admired and applauded, and to try to denigrate it means you don't understand how hard this all really truly is.
Oh yeah, like I just find it like
I'm just talking about the noise in the room,
and all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, I guess as far as you think, you know, we can't question the way how Kyle has built the team. We just question the fact we just haven't won the big one. But how do you feel about, like, you know, the depth overall? You know, like, we got some quality depth pieces, but I feel like that's been the issue. Like, we've been kind of like been lucky at times. But do you feel this is a pretty interesting depth of guys we got on our team?
They're loaded. I mean, they really are. They got talent and layers of talent at every single position. Now, Nick Bosa is at the top of that depth chart. And if he is not involved, it screws up that equation. So I am talking about this with, you know, the default setting of Nick Bosa's in camp this week, and he's there on the field week 1 against Pittsburgh. The Niners are loaded. They really are. And ironically, had they kept Trey Lance, because I don't know what I think of Brandon Allen again, and here's the beautiful part. Normally, you don't even have to think about third-string quarterbacks.
Exactly.
Seasons do not hinge on third-string quarterbacks to the point of, like, well, now if your third stringer is in there, you got to get to this. No. If your third stringer in there, by definition,
you're inactive.
You're in a lot of trouble. Exactly. So anything less than we crapped the bed and didn't win another game is like an overachievement when you get third-string quarterbacks involved. But I thought that the 49ers, even their depth of Purdy, Lance, and Darnold was pretty good, deep quarterbacking room, to be totally honest. And that's, you know, with all the doubts that you had of Trey Lance. Because, again, with all the doubts, he would still show you moments that make you think, well, there's something there. You know, clearly Kyle, who, if we're admitting he knows what he's doing, he saw something. What that something was, I really don't know. And I was, you know, I'm like you. I was very much in the Mac Jones should be the pick camp. It's just a guy who saw the field, got all those reps that have to come baked into your experience before you even hit the league. Again, these are the reps that Trey Lance was sorely lacking in his career. And he was playing, you know, at the highest level of college competition at Alabama, winning national championships week in, week out. SEC defenses are no joke. I just thought that that was exactly what Kyle would want. And then Shanahan basically talked himself out of what he thinks he needs. And he talked himself into, well, what might I need to stay ahead of tendencies and shake things up and give the league a different look, and they're not catching on to me. Well, give me Trey Lance, because he represents possibility to grow my offense into something it's really never been before. Unfortunately, that possibility was only a theory. Kyle couldn't make it work in fact.
Well, what played a factor was the injuries, and plus, Kyle wanted a quarterback like a Josh Allen. I've seen this, what he said in the conference a while back when we were playing Monday night against the Bills. Josh Allen had one of his best games, and that's the quarterback he wanted to get. But the problem was, from what John Lynch said, they didn't even give him they didn't play up to his strength. And when you don't play the quarterback up to his strength, you're not building the kid's confidence, and then you're throwing them in the fire. And even though, despite the injuries, I just thought, man, if he wasn't the fit, I would have just understood the Mac Jones pick. I would have never questioned the pick, because like you said, the competition, he played at the SEC. That's no joke. That's like NFL type defense. But you take the swing on a kid at North Dakota State who's only played certain competition, you question. But there's quite a few quarterbacks like Josh Allen who's played at a really in questionable competition. Then you had Carson Wentz. He played at the same college as Trey Lance, and those competition were can it translate? We've seen it worked out fine, but Trey just had a different skill set, and I just didn't think Kyle just would have patience. When you have a Super Bowl roster team, you don't have patience. They want to go all in for the Super Bowl, and these players, they're not getting any younger.
And you want to talk about another element of the whole acquisition of Trey Lance that, again, is hard to explain. It was hard to explain, and this isn't just criticism in hindsight. It was hard to explain in the moment that it happened. How could a got-to-win-right-now team, a win-today team, drafting a might-win-with-him-tomorrow player, that never really made much sense.
Exactly.
It didn't. But it's still something that, Kyle will have to explain away in his, memoirs someday when he sits down to write his biography. Maybe we'll get a little more insight. He's not going to give it up while he's still out there coaching. We'll get the truth someday, but it won't be today. It won't be this season. It'll be down the road. The truth will come out of the entire decision-making process. But it didn't make an awful lot of sense. And having said all that, how successful has Mac Jones been? He's got a pretty good coach in Bill Belichick. Now, that team isn't as good around him. We all know that. But the one thing that I have said over and over again is, and it's a truth, and this is another thing that the fanboys never understood. They thought because he was selected in the top 5, greatness is guaranteed. It's assured. You don't even need to worry about it. Just play the kid. The greatness will eventually bubble over like a boiling pot, and that's just how it goes. That's not how it goes. There is no level of collegiate success that dictates whether or not you're going to be a success or a failure in the NFL. Tim Tebow is one of the single greatest college quarterbacks I've ever seen with my own 2 eyes, and the league chewed him up and spit him out almost instantly. Cannot function at this level of football was the scouting report on Tim Tebow very quickly. Baker Mayfield, again, Heisman Trophy winning, not the physical goal line back specimen that Tebow was. So we have a much more tradition pocket-based type of quarterback coming out with a Heisman Trophy. Baker Mayfield has got one more season here. He's going to start the year with the Bucs. Do you think he's going to end the year as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback? I can see him struggling to the point where it's Kyle Trask time. And Baker Mayfield, again, this young prince promised to the quarterbacking realm of the NFL, is probably going to be out of the league in another year or two. This league chews up collegiate success and spits it out all the time. And I think that that's what made Kyle fall for the lie he was telling himself. Like, he knew what Trey Lance didn't have, but he also knew what all these other quarterbacks might have had, but that doesn't guarantee anything's about to happen. So for the one time in my career, says Kyle, I'm going to take the physical specimen, the guy I think I can mold into who I want him to be. And maybe that is hubris. Maybe that is Kyle being a little too cocky. He took a really big swing and walked back to the dugout after a really big strikeout. But that at-bat is over. And week 1 of this season starts what in 14 days, 13 days, 2 Sundays from now. And that's when everything that happens starts to matter.
Yeah.
Everything up to this point is just changing the tires and getting gas.
Getting over there, yeah.
Begins week 1.
Yeah. So, I feel like since we're talking expectation, man, like, there's a lot of this under Kyle Shanahan with a healthy roster. We always been contending, but I feel like this is going to be a pretty interesting season. I mean, Brock Purdy's going to be tested with defense, with film. He's going to play better defenses. So that's going to be very challenging. But just from an outside looking in, just as a radio host guy, how do you feel about the 49ers season?
I think 10-6 is the floor.
Okay.
I think they're a 10-6 football team, and that's if they don't play very well. If they do start playing well and Purdy is delivering week in, week out, and Christian McCaffrey's name is officially in the MVP conversation, and Nick Bosa's holdout didn't cause him to lose any time at all, and he is among the NFL's pressure and sack leaders, once again, a defensive player of the year conversation being had around him. That's when you start looking at, well, now you go from 10-7 to 11-6. Look at it this way: asking for anything more than 12-5, Las Vegas isn't even asking the Kansas City Chiefs for more than 12-5. Like, if you're being tapped out as I think they're going to be a 12-win football team, what you're saying is I think that team can win the Super Bowl. So yeah. I think they're a 10, 11, 12-win team. If they're a 12-win team, they're probably hosting the NFC title game if they, win their first playoff game, which would also be a home game. And you'd got to like the 49ers' chances under that scenario. Again, while I'll tell you none of this is easy, the expectations are through the roof. Nothing short of a Super Bowl appearance can even be marketed as satisfying for 49ers fans, and not just the fans, but for the coach, the team, the players, the locker room, the owner, the front office, like everyone involved. The pressure to win right now is as intense as it can possibly be. Yeah,
it's just Kyle just hasn't delivered a Super Bowl yet, but I feel like with this type of roster, it's pretty stacked. It's a lot better than it's been under his tenure. I mean, he's got everything he needs. Like linebacker depth, that's pretty deep. I mean, you got a solid defensive line. As soon as Bosa comes out of the holdout, we're pretty stacked on that D-line.
And, we only talk about, what do you think the Niners can do from just the prism of looking at the Niners and the Niners only? There's a lot of other football teams that if something goes wrong there, the Niners' chances of having a better season increase dramatically. What if I told you in week 6, Jalen Hurts tears his ACL?
That's a huge chance for us.
How are you feeling about the Eagles then, right? So things can change dramatically. That's why the whole preseason prediction business to me, I understand there's a lot of time to waste and there's a lot of column inches to fill, and people love a list. People love a list. Let's talk and argue about this list of totally random sports bits of information I'm putting together, but I'm ranking it 1 through 10. So, it must be really important.
Yeah, you can change.
There's too many moving parts to talk about the NFL season with any certainty until it gets underway, which is why I'm really looking forward to it getting underway. I can't take another training camp update from anyone.
Me either. It's like, dude, it doesn't count. At this point, it don't matter. We're looking at players who are standing out, but can it translate to the regular season? And, the more I start watching this kid, Ronnie Bell, I just feel like the kid can be a really good receiver. How do you feel about Ronnie Bell? I like him. We've gotten just a peek at him. He looks really good, though. I watch a lot of Big Ten football. I don't remember this physical a player coming out of Ann Arbor. It's like Deebo Samuel has been giving him little Deebo pills on the side and saying, turn into me, play like me, which means the young man is coachable.
I mean, and if you're going to be a successful wide receiver in Kyle's system, you better be coachable. You better be picking up what your head coach is putting down. And Deebo Samuel knows exactly what coach expectations are. So for this kid to have, basically been the Deebo Samuel understudy so far and look like him and play like him and be physical like him, it's a wonderful start to a rookie year in Kyle Shanahan's system, which again hasn't really allowed many rookies to flourish in it.
That's true.
He's had degrees of rookie success, but there still hasn't been, outside of Brock Purdy, an incredible rookie story at a skill position for Kyle yet. And maybe Ronnie Bell will be that. I think he's on the roster. As we're talking about who's the last wide receiver off the roster, I think Snead is gone before Ronnie Bell at this point. I think I think he's on the team. I think he's
a lot.
And they need him, and he's going to play.
I think he's either number 4 or number 5. I mean, because he fits the system, and it wouldn't surprise me if he does take a little more snaps off of Jennings, because you want some explosive plays. You want a guy who can catch those short passes like Deebo, do some nice blocking. But the difference between Jennings is he is a big wide receiver with kind of like a tight end type body. You want that physicality, but you want a guy who can give you those big plays sometimes. And that's what Ronnie Bell brings to the table. He can return kicks. He can be a gunner. Like, this guy was coached by Jim Harbaugh. So that tells you he is NFL ready. But like you said, it's kind of hard to get rookies out there because of the way the playbook is. And Kyle doesn't always just put rookies out there right away.
It's the curse of Dante Pettis.
Oh, man, the doghouse and all that stuff. We don't need to go there. I mean, despite how people feel about your takes, man, I've always had to respect a man's work. I don't need to question somebody. Your stuff. For those people who want to have you on the show or at least try to, listen to your content, man, you have respectable takes. Even if they don't agree with it, you have to, admire it,
Well, thank you. Again, it's, I don't know if I'm serving myself well, but if you want to just hear people screaming about the 49ers, there's a lot of places to do that. If you'd like to hear someone talking about the 49ers, hopefully you consider my channel a good place to do that, because we're just trying to get to the center of the truth and the issues and really figure out what is happening, not demonstrate how angry we can act over every single bit of information that comes out of Santa Clara. I know some people have an awful lot of success with that, and I wish everyone the very, very best, but it's not how I like my cup of tea served. I like my coffee black. So if you need cream and sugar in yours, there's a lot of cream and sugar. We're drinking black coffee over here on the Damon Bruce
I'm
Show.
drinking my creamer with that.
That's man knows what he likes. Man knows what he likes.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I know. Thank you for having me on, and I admit, we've talked once or twice. To me, you represent, the very best of what a content creator can be, should be. You're just trying to figure out what is going on, and you're led by curiosity, not emotion. And that's something that I respect. So thanks so much for having me on. I hope we can do this again. It was wonderful joining you, meeting your audience and your subscribers. If your subscribers were to become my subscribers and vice versa, think of the smart football conversations we'll be able to have all season long. I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, yeah. I will definitely let you know. I got you in contact. We'll figure out something. But, hey, Damon Bruce, man, you've been nothing but respect. And I always enjoy your content. I've always enjoyed watching the 95.7 The Game when you were on the show. But now, since you're a content creator, you're doing awesome stuff. Every now and then, I do check what you got to say, because I gotta do my homework. So that's how I do my show.
Look at it this way: I've had Keith Olbermann do shows about how I'm the worst person in the world. A little noise on YouTube, I couldn't give a shit.
Clout chasers these days. That's what it is. We got these clout chasers. That's what we call them.
Thank you very, very much. It was great being on with you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, sir. And for everybody else, thank you guys for tuning in. And go check out Damon Bruce's channel. Go subscribe it. Go follow him on Twitter, man. You are missing something. But, hey, take it easy. As always, go Niners.